Okay, here's something that most people have never been told about high cortisol. The pressure that you feel to be productive, perfect, or constantly getting things done all the time is not natural. It is a learned response. And over time, your mind and your body got trained into believing that slowing down is unsafe. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to lower your cortisol levels by retraining yourself to live in the flow with life so that your nervous system can finally stop treating everything in your life as if it were an urgent emergency. Here's the big picture of how this works, and we're going to dive into each one of these in this video. First, you deprogram the survival mode response, which means removing unnecessary pressure on yourself and removing false responsibility. And we're going to dive deeper into that. Second, you reclaim your energy by getting clear on what's actually in your control and what isn't in your control. And third, you program the flow state. You reprogram yourself to live in the flow state where action comes from inspiration instead of forcefulness, and life starts to feel easier and lighter again. Let's start with step 1, because this is where most of the stress you're currently experiencing is actually coming from. Most people think that they're stressed or anxious because their life is demanding, because they have too much to do, too many responsibilities, or too much going on. But in reality, most of your stress isn't coming from your life itself. It is coming from a false identity that was formed in your subconscious mind. Here is what I mean. Your subconscious mind is essentially a sponge. It absorbs beliefs, patterns, and rules about how the world works, especially in early childhood. So most of your core identity and these survival beliefs that you have today were formed before you were even 7 years old. And once those beliefs get programmed into you, your nervous system then operates from those beliefs automatically. So if at any point earlier in your life, you learned things like approval comes from achieving, like getting good grades, getting on honor roll. Maybe love comes from taking care of other people. Love comes from being useful in your family, useful around the house. You might have learned that resting is lazy. You might have learned that slowing down means you're falling behind. And so you can't even have a chance to catch your breath. You just have to always be doing things. Those beliefs become instructions for your nervous system. And one of the most common subconscious beliefs that I see is this: if I'm not producing, fixing, or helping, then I'm not good enough. Sometimes it sounds like I need to stay on top of things. If I'm not involved, then something's going to fall apart. I don't have time to rest. I can't afford to take a day off. For it to be done right, I have to do it myself. How many times have you ever said that in your life? So if any of these sound like you, let me know in the comments if you say any of those things. These are limiting beliefs that created a false identity, a false perception that you have about yourself. This is where your worth, your worthiness feels tied to your output, how much you're getting done, how successful you are. So your body stays in survival mode, not because there's an actual emergency, but because it thinks that doing more is safer. So that's why the cortisol in your body stays high, and that's why slowing down feels uncomfortable. And that's why even the thought of taking a day off can feel anxiety provoking, because you feel like you'll get behind on something. And a quick side note, if trouble sleeping is one of the ways that this shows up for you, I actually have a free masterclass where I go much deeper into how to retrain your nervous system to sleep naturally again. It's all about undoing this stress response that's been turning on at night. So I'll link that in the description below so you can watch it next. Your nervous system isn't responding to reality. It's responding to a false perception that you've had of yourself. Because the truth is, you are not valuable because of what you produce or what you achieve, of your success. You are valuable just because you exist. Let that sink in. Just having this awareness is shining a light on the subconscious belief that's been operating quietly in the background for years. And here's the key part. You don't even really need to do anything to fix this belief. Notice how funny that is. Our first instinct is to want to do something to fix it, which is a prime example of the limiting belief still running the show. So instead, you don't need to do anything particular to fix it, okay? All you need to do is start noticing it, observing it, start catching it in the act. Because once you see it, it starts to lose its power. So let's make this really practical. Here are some very common ways that this false identity shows up in everyday life so that you know what to look for. It can look like over-helping. Do you have the caregiver programming like I got, where you're just naturally always taking care of other people to the point where you neglect yourself? Over managing, micromanaging, whether that's people in your family, your kids, or at work, other employees or, coworkers. Are you planning things that no one asked you to plan? Guilty. Are you taking responsibility for other people's stress, emotions, or outcomes? Are you jumping in to fix problems that aren't actually yours? I used to do that all the time. Do you feel guilty resting when someone else in your life is struggling? This is a sneaky one. You can't effectively help people if you aren't fully recharged yourself. Another super common one is feeling like you can't relax until everything is done. So it's all tightly tucked away, all the checks or boxes are checked on a to-do list until everything's done, then you can finally take a break. All of these habits come from this limiting belief. If I'm not doing something, then I'm not good enough. If I'm not being useful or productive, then I'm not worthy. And here's the key piece that people miss. When you don't feel good enough or worthy enough, your nervous system doesn't just interpret that as an emotional state. It interprets it as a safety issue, a life or death issue. Not because there's actual danger, but because on a subconscious level, it feels unsafe to not be doing something. And the irony is that constantly doing things also keeps the stress response turned on. And that's why so many people feel stuck in this pattern, unable to get out of it. So instead of judging yourself, just start to notice these patterns. This is all you need to do. Just pause, notice the pattern, and then remind yourself of the truth. And here is what the truth is. You do not need to earn peace. That is your birthright, feeling peace. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to hold everything together. You are worthy of love, happiness, rest, and success just by existing, even when you're not doing anything. Got it? That is the truth. Sit with that, okay? It's weird to think about that, about yourself, right? Like if I do this right now, you're sitting here watching this video with me, right? Just you sitting here existing means you are worthy of all of the love and abundance and happiness and success in the universe. Just you sitting here right now doing nothing. I mean, you're not doing nothing, you're learning, you're hanging out with me. But do you see how weird that is? It's so unnatural for us to think that just being here, just existing, I'm just in my apartment by myself right now, that's enough. I'm enough. I'm enough. And you are enough. So that is step one to living in the flow with life and lowering these cortisol levels so you don't deal with stress, is you change how you see yourself. That's step one. Now, step two is where you start putting that truth into practice through your actions in your day-to-day life. Because the next thing that your nervous system needs to learn is where your energy actually belongs. Most stress doesn't come from what's happening in your life. It comes from where your energy is going. And more importantly, where your energy is leaking. So step two is about getting very clear on one simple distinction. What is in your control and what isn't? So I want you to picture two different columns. Column one, what is in your control? Okay, so here's what's in your control. What you say, what you don't say, your boundaries, your pace with how you move through your day, Are you rushed, or are you able to take it one thing at a time? Your priorities, how you respond to other people, to things that happen in your day, what you put on your calendar, what you say yes or no to. I'm probably missing some, but you get the point. This is like what you actually have control over. Now, the second column is what is not in your control. Okay, this is the favorite one. This is the one that I want you to pay the most attention to, okay? What is not in your control? Other people's feelings, other people's reactions, whether someone agrees with you, how fast things get done, how fast things unfold, whether someone gets it or doesn't get it. Outcomes after you've already done your part. You've done your part, and then you got to just like let the rest unfold. Because here's what happens. Stress will always increase when you put your energy into the second column of what's not in your control. Because your nervous system treats that as an impossible job. There is no finish line. There is no clear moment when it can let go and relax, because those things are all uncontrollable. So if you try to control them, it's impossible. And that's obviously very stressful on your mind and body. And it's also confusing. So this can show up in many different ways, just like in behaviors that you might be doing, which to me, it shows up as like over-explaining myself, replaying conversations, trying to convince someone of my point of view or to get them to understand it the way I meant it, but they're not going to understand the way I said it anyway. So it's just like a waste of energy. Also anticipating problems before they even exist, having like a plan A, B, C, D in case of like a doomsday scenario. It's like that hasn't happened and you're wasting your energy on that. Jumping in to fix things that aren't yours to fix, rescuing people, being the savior. I'm super guilty of that one. Trying to manage how other people perceive you. None of this is in your control or your responsibility. Most of the time, this is all that you need to focus on right here, okay? All you need to focus on most of the time is speaking your truth, setting boundaries when necessary, taking care of your own needs first, and then letting things play out all on their own. That is it. It can be that simple. When you focus on what's not in your control, your energy is scattered and also draining. It's leaking out. But when you pull your energy back into what is in your control, something powerful shifts. Your nervous system finally gets the message that, oh, I'm not responsible for everything and everyone. And the more that you reclaim your energy, that is where it starts getting a lot easier to live in the flow with life, which brings us to step 3, how to actually start living in the flow today. So what the heck do I mean by living in the flow? A flow state is what naturally happens after you stop forcing life. Most people are unconsciously trying to push life forward in the direction that they want by overworking, by pressuring themselves, by trying to control outcomes that were never in their control to begin with. That constant forcing keeps your nervous system activated. And activated nervous systems don't create their best work. Sit with that. Once you remove the internal pressure to be productive by detaching your self-worth from your productivity, and you remove the false responsibility for everything and everyone by focusing only on what is in your control, your nervous system finally has space to regulate and come back into the present moment. And that is when the flow becomes available. Your most efficient, most effective, and most creative work will always happen in a flow state, never in a forced state. So how do you stay productive and live in the flow? This is how you do it. You follow what feels inspired in each individual moment. That's it. And I know for you high achievers, this can sound scary at first because you've been taught that being proactive and on top of everything is what actually makes things happen. It's like you wear it like it was a badge of honor. You're the one who knows how to get it done. That's what we all think. I think that too. It's a false identity. I know it's a false identity. I now have assistants helping me with many, many things. And I'm like, they're way better than I am at this. It's just like we think that we have to be in control or it's not safe. It is a survival program like we talked about in step 1. So here's how this works with this whole flow state thing. It actually feels like magic, and I do this intentionally all of the time. So The moment that you remove pressure from having to get something done, your motivation returns naturally. So anytime I'm pressuring myself to be productive, like plan a new YouTube video, what I do is I let myself off the hook. I say, hey, it's okay if I don't do it today. I'll just get to it when it feels good to work on it. And sometimes it's even instantaneous, where the motivation and inspiration all of a sudden appears, and before I know it, I have a new video planned. Or I just take the day off completely, because if the inspiration doesn't show up, then it means that it's not the right time to create or to get it done or whatever it is. And I've practiced this enough times that I'm able to trust that the idea or the inspiration will come when it's supposed to be done, and it will all get done in the right time frame. So if you ever notice yourself thinking, hey, I should be doing this right now, I have to get this done, that's your cue that you're in a forced state, not a flow state. So the answer is not to push through and get it done even though you're exhausted. That's the old survival program trying to keep you constantly doing things. So instead, you have to practice removing the pressure. You have to practice stepping away and trusting that the natural motivation to get that thing done will come to you when it's the right timing. Because the energy to do that thing, it will come back. And when it does, it will feel completely different. Another personal example is actually how I figured out how this whole flow state thing works in the first place. And it all started with tax season. There used to be a time when I constantly stressed out about doing my taxes. I would think about it for months in advance. And then one day, it was like this natural motivation to get my taxes done just showed up. And it was never as bad as I was making it out to be in my mind. The mind is trying to keep you in the survival programming. So I had like a lot of fun doing my taxes one time. And that's when I realized, oh, nothing is ever hard as it feels it's going to be. It's just that I wasn't in the right energy, the right flow state in that moment in time. And so that's why it felt so daunting. So now I just remove the pressure entirely. That has become my new default programming because I've trained myself to do this. I don't force myself to do anything ever. If I have the intention to get it done, I know that it will get done much faster if I take the pressure off the timing and I just let it go until the natural motivation comes to me. And without fail, there's always a day when the energy to do that thing shows up, where it flows, it's easy, and it's fun. And because of this, every day of my life is great. I get everything done faster and with less effort because I'm working with my natural inspiration instead of trying to force outcomes. So this is how the flow state works. And if you're a high performer, a go-getter, a type A personality, I also want to remind you, you might want to write this one down, your 50% effort is someone else's 200%. You don't need to be pushing all the time. You don't need to be forcing yourself to be productive. It's going to get done just because that's the type of person that you are. And once the pressure is gone, your natural drive takes over and it just feels so much better. So instead of asking, what should I be doing right now? What else can I get done right now? Start asking yourself, what feels most aligned or most inspired right now? Trust that the motivation for each task will come to you when the timing is right. That is how you flow with life. And when you live this way, your cortisol naturally lowers, you stop living in a constant state of stress, your nervous system exits survival mode, and everything in your life starts to feel so much easier. And if you're noticing that you're having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, in this video right here, I actually explain how high cortisol at night is usually the culprit for that. And I also teach you how to lower it naturally so that sleep comes easily again. So this is a great one to watch next.